Now, we've been describing all of this time that there certainly is Bechira, there is free will. There's also divine intervention and the way that Hashem runs the world. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, at the end of the day, will never allow something to happen. That seems to be the direction that we're going in. He will never allow something to happen that's not supposed to happen. Although that it could be that it was generated by the free will decisions, negative free will decisions of another person. So we mentioned that there are limiting factors in the power of one's free will. The first thing that we said is the schus, is the merits of another person, which means that even though that maybe I will come and act with my bechira to go and do something that is destructive or hurtful to somebody else, if that person has merits of their own, those merits can be a protection and they can block the free will of myself from going and hurting them and damaging them. So the more zechusim, the more merits that a person has, the more they're going to create a force field of protection that will save them from bad situations and difficulties. The less zechusim, the less merits that a person has will end up having a negative impact on them and can end up hurting them. So if Chaim Kanievsky writes on this idea the following, and he says that a person cannot be killed without a heavenly decree. This is, I think that we'll call this, this will be, give us some consolation over here. Nobody's going to get killed because somebody pulls the trigger and they don't deserve it. But against human free will, one needs more merit to be saved. Meaning, if a person will die in a way that perhaps, let's say that nobody else is involved, so then we would say that that's a heavenly decree. However, if there's human free will that's involved, so then you need more merits to be saved. There are occasions when death is decreed upon a person, but his merit will save him. From human free will, one needs more merits. And that's really everything we've been saying up until this point, that there is the heavenly decree. There's also the pressure that man's free will is putting on the world and putting on other people. And you will require your own merits to be able to save you from such things. Now, he brings a proof from this, from the story of Purim. I know Purim is far behind us and far away in the future, but we'll try to keep this in mind. Mordechai, you had a wicked person whose name was Haman. Haman basically made himself into a deity, to some kind of a god. He had a getchke, he had a necklace around his neck, which was a little statue of himself, and he wanted everyone to bow down to him. He looked at himself as some godly person in this world. Mordechai refused to bow down to him. Now Haman was a man of tremendous power and hatred for the Jewish people, and basically the king gave Haman over his signet ring and he told him, you go and do whatever you want to Klal Yisrael. That means that Haman has the ability to come and kill Mordechai, wipe him out if he wants. He builds the 50 Amma gallows, the gigantic gallows that he's going to hang Mordechai from. And so Mordechai, really in a world of teva, in a world of regular nature, the way that we see things, Mordechai should have been concerned that his actions were going to motivate Haman to use even more of his Bechira to come down on Mordechai and try to kill him, which really it did. However, says Rabbi Tatz that Mordechai knew that he was protected against Haman, and that enabled him to employ his unusual strategy. Meaning, since that Mordechai knew that he had so much schusim, so many merits under his belt, he was, I guess we'll call him a very confident person. None of us could really know that we have enough merits to be able to protect ourselves from the free will of somebody else. But Mordechai knew that he was filled with schusim, with merits, between being on the Sanhedrin, having all the Torah learning under his belt that he did, his concern for all of Klal Yisrael. So he had a lot of merits on all sides, therefore he was never concerned. He was never afraid that Haman would be able to do anything to him. He brings down other examples of this. He brings down other examples of people who put themselves into dangerous situations, and there were forces at work around them that never accomplished their thing. And one story is Rabbi Chanina in the Gemara, who there was a woman that tries to use sorcery to destroy him, and yet he told her, go ahead, I'm not worried about you, go ahead and make my day. He said, I'm not worried about you at all. So she was powerless to harm him. Why? Because he said, Ein oid milvado, there's nothing else besides Hashem. And the fact that I believe so strongly in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I know that Hashem is going to protect me, and he obviously felt that he had a lot of merits on his side, he felt he had nothing to fear. So the Gemara is questions over there, meaning sorcery is a powerful thing, and this woman wanted to kill him, so how could he be so sure that he had enough power to go against that? And the Gemara answers because Rabbi Chanina was a great person with tremendous merits, and those merits would end up protecting him. So that's one thing, says Rav Tatz over here, and that is that it's the nature of the schusim, the merits of the person, that will protect him. Now, something else that ends up interfering with the free will of a person against another, and that is the power of the person and their free will. What does that mean? That means that the perpetrator over here, the one that is trying to commit this crime and hurt this person, he's acting as a Baal Bechira, as a person of free will, but he might be limited in his own merits and his own life of what he's able to do. So he points out over here the following, that the brothers of Yosef were able to affect the destiny of Yosef because they were spiritual giants. And that's, like we saw before, that's what Reuven was concerned about. Reuven understood the greatness of the brothers of Yosef, even though they were acting in a very not brotherly way over here, and a very lowly way, that they were trying to destroy their brother, kill their brother, but still they were what's called Shiftei Kal. They were the tribes of the Jewish people. They were the sons of Yaakov. They were all great people in their own right, and therefore Reuven understood that their greatness is going to be a problem over here, because their Bechira is going to have a tremendous power to it. It'll be able to accomplish what they want to accomplish. However, if someone lives on a low level of Ashkacha, which means someone's living on a much lower level of spirituality, so then they have very little power to change the course of another's life, let alone the course of Jewish history. Meaning, if I'm a brother of Yosef and I'm an exalted person spiritually, I'm a great person, so then if I make a decision to do something, so my decision, it matters. It has strength, it has power, and there's going to be follow-through. But if I am a spiritual weakling to a great extent, which means that my power is very limited in what I can accomplish with my Bechira, so then it's unlikely that my actions are going to be able to cause anything detrimental or life-changing to another person or to Klal Yisrael. The actions of those who function as part of the natural world, who have not lifted themselves above the merely material, do not amount to much more than aspects of the material. That means I'm just another cog in the machine over here. I'm just another piece in the puzzle. I'm not really doing something and affecting something with my Bechira and my free will, because I don't have the power to do such a thing. It's the larger people, the greater the people are, that they have more power, and therefore their actions have much farther reaching effects, which would make it seem then that if you look at it like this, it would come out the following, that if you would see someone who is on a relatively low level of spiritual greatness, or a low level of spirituality, who does something that looks like it's having a negative impact and an effect on somebody else, it's not really that person. It's really that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was geyser, he decreed that such a thing should happen. Now he's using this person, as we saw before, he's using that person, we call it Megalgalin Chayiv al Yidei Chayiv, which means that he is utilizing a lowly person to bring about negative things in this world. So the fact that that person has done wrong, and that person has done not good things, and that person is holding in the not the greatest place, unfortunately he becomes the tool and the vehicle in the hands of God to be able to do what he wants to do. But it's not his Bechira, even though that it looks like it. It's not his free will that's affecting things. It's really all Hashem. So this would really kind of answer a very big question that we're having so far, because there's really no great spiritual giants in the world today. And certainly the wicked people of this world, they are definitely not holding by the levels of tremendous spirituality where we could assume that their actions are going to have broad-reaching effects on Klal Yisrael or a person's life, which would really mean then that in reality, anything that's happening to a person today in this world, even if you see other people that are involved and you see other people that are doing things, so they're not big enough to have an impact and an effect on your life unless HaKadosh Baruch Hu decreed that it should happen, which is a really fascinating idea. And that also takes away any blame or any anger that a person has for somebody else in this world for what they've done to us. They're not big enough to do anything to us because they themselves are weaklings in the spiritual worlds. If they're weaklings in the spiritual worlds, that means for whatever reason it is, whether we'll understand it in our lifetime or not understand it in our lifetime, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who decreed that this thing should happen. Why was this person chosen to be the vessel or the vehicle or the agent to do the bad, the destructive things to me? That's because they must not be such a great person. And so therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu is filtering this decree through them. And that's a reason why that they got it, and that's going to be their own detriment that we're going to have to deal with for them in the world to come. But at the end of the day, if there's something bad that's happening to me, again, bad meaning in my eyes, it's bad and it's hurtful and it's painful and so on and so forth, that means that Hashem is the one that decreed, it's a heavenly decree that should happen. What's the reason? Maybe I'll merit to understand it in this world. Maybe it'll spawn me on or encourage me, inspire me to become a greater person in different areas of my life. That's going to be up to me how I'm going to respond to the situation. But I think that a very big chiddush, a very big idea comes out from this, and that is that only great people have Bechira that could affect the world in a negative way, or even in a positive way. It would seemingly be. The brothers of Yosef are the quintessential example in the Torah of great people that could affect the world. And that's why Reuben was afraid that his brother Yosef is going to end up getting killed based on their Bechira. But somebody else, a small fry in the world of Torah, a small fry in the world of Ruchnius, of spirituality, a small fry in the world of closest to Hashem, what could they really do? They can't really do anything, and therefore we can look at them as just being like the vessel in the hand of God to act out His decree in this world. But that means that Hashem was the one that had the decree. Now, why did He make that decree? That I have to try to figure out for myself. Whether He wants to teach me something, whether He wants to absolve me from my sins, whether He wants me to become a greater person, maybe it's a Gilgul, it's a life that I had from a previous lifetime, and there's things that have to be worked out in this world, or maybe it's all of the above, but it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that is really running the show over here, and therefore I have to look at Hashem as being the one that is calling the shots and pulling the strings, and as a result, it allows me to, I guess, appreciate much more that other people in this world are not really the ones themselves that are hurting me. It's really Hashem enacting His gezeres, His decrees upon me, upon a family, upon the Jewish people in general and at large. And therefore, it behooves us, as Rav Tatz explained before, the only thing that we really have control over in our Bechira is how we're going to respond to the circumstance that Hashem put us in. So if we're going to respond in a negative way, that's really our decision. If we're going to respond in a positive way, and a learning way, and a growing way, that's also our decision, and that's for that, a person will merit to have great rewards in this world. And as we saw in the story in the Gemara in Unklis, they'll have great rewards in the world to come. That's the real prominence of who we are as a people and as a nation. That's where it's going to be shown. Okay, so I just think that's a big a turning point almost in the way that we're thinking through this today, and in what we've been leading up until this point. So let's keep that, let's think about that, and then on Wednesday, he has a few more ideas over here of why certain people have more control with their Bechira over others, and we'll try to see those points as well on Wednesday. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All the best.
Hello.
Hey, Dan. How are you?
What's up? Is somebody sick?
Yeah. Naftali.
Oh, so he didn't go to school.
No, he didn't go to school today, no.
So we had a very sad news yesterday. A woman I play mahjong with is very good friends with